Hey guys, it's Julia. Sorry for the background, it ain't the cutest, but I'm here today with a cold, not feeling good, but to do a book review because I gotta get a video up for you guys. Just because I'm sick doesn't mean that I don't post, you know? I gotta get the videos flowing here. I can't miss days. So today I'm doing a book review on Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. I was not really planning on doing a review for this, but I thought if I don't, I may regret it because it was such a long book. It took me a week to read, and I don't like when it takes me a week to read a book, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining by Stephen King, so if you have not read The Shining, I'm not going to be having a huge non-spoilery section for this part of the video as I usually do, but The Shining, the synopsis, if I explain it to you, it'd take like 2 minutes, so I'll have the Goodreads page down below, but The Shining is a must-read. You must read The Shining. I need a tissue. Isn't this box so cute? Like, it reminds me of Japan for some reason. I don't know. Okay. The Shining is a must-read. You must read The Shining. It is one of my favorite books ever, and it's an amazing book. I don't think you have to read it technically to read this. Like, you don't really, but you should. And yeah, so this is what we're going to be talking about today. So if you haven't read it, I would leave now so you won't be spoiled. Bye, bye, bye. Hello, spoiler section of Dr. Sleep. So we start the book off. We're with this girl named Andy throughout some of the book. And I'm like, who is this? Like, I thought this was going to be like our like girl, I don't know, protagonist, like another, like we had Dan, and I'm wondering, like, are we gonna have a girl on the side too? And then she gets basically to some cult, and I'm like, who are these guys? And they're called the True Knot. They are not human, really. They look like human, and they have these beautiful faces, but then when you take a look closer, they are gross and scary, and basically they feed off people's steam. So when a person of some ability or some power dies, they breathe in their steam, and this somehow gives them more power or something along those lines. That's basically the cover. I was wondering, like, I always wonder before I start a book, okay, why is the title what the title is, and why is the cover like it is? So I believe this is Rose in the background. I'm not sure, but Rose is the leader of the True Knot. She is horrible, but that made her an interesting character. And I believe that's her there. I don't know. I don't think it's Abra, because Abra isn't that old. So, and then this is like supposed to be the steam. Dr. Sleep is what they call Danny throughout the book, which I'll get to Dan in a second. But Andy gets introduced to this thing, True Knot. They feed off people's steam, people who have power, who have the shine, just like Danny did. Dan. It took me so long to get used to calling Danny, Dan, because I'm thinking of the cute little boy from The Shining, you know, he's so cute. And now I'm just like, Dan, I don't like calling you Dan. And then sometimes I was catching myself like thinking this was from Jack's perspective. I'm like, Jack is not alive. Jack died in the fire at the Overlook. So why? Because they were so similar in a way. Like, he started drinking, and then there was that incident where he was with that girl, and he got drunk, and he ended up whatever, and he woke up in this room, and the kid was there, and they bought cocaine. So then the kid was like, ooh, candy. This doesn't make no sense if you stayed past the spoiler. If you didn't leave at the spoiler section, it's gonna make no sense to you, but this is the point here. It's just he left. Like, Dan actually took some of her money, and he says near the end that that's one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. I was like, oh, interesting. But so back to Danny now. So we follow him as he turns into his father. He's drinking, he's getting really drunk, whatever, and he gets kind of introduced to an AA meeting, and he ends up staying there, and he works at this kind of like hospital thing. And he basically stays with the patients. Like, if a patient is going to die very soon, like in a couple hours, he will stay with them, and he basically holds their hand, helps them fall asleep, helps them, you know, not be scared. And then as they die more peacefully with him there. So that's what he does. That's why he's called Dr. Sleep. That's what his kind of friends and people at the doctor's place kind of call him Dr. Sleep. But that's why that's there. So I was always wondering why the hell that's there. Abra. I was like, at first I was like, who is this kid? I don't know, but she was so cool because she's like Danny but cooler. Well, like she's like Danny but female, and I was like, hey, this is cool. And she had the shine, and she did all these crazy stuff, and her and Dan talk to each other through their minds, and it's so cool. And the True Knot is after her because the True Knot got measles, and they thought that someone of intense power breathing in their steam could heal them. So they go after Abra, and then that whole shebang happens. And they get her dad involved, Abra's dad. His dad, oh my god, dad's reaction killed me. Like, I don't even know. Dan was like telling the dad, and he was like, are you kidding? What is it? It made like no sense. Like, if I was that parent, I swear I'd be like, what? What are you talking about? But that stuff all happened, and they got the dad on board, and the True Knot were after Abra. And it was Dan and Abra working together. Turns out Danny is Abra's uncle. Don't know how that necessarily works, but he was. This is not as detailed as I would like it to be, but I wrote like a review for like an hour, so you can read that if you want. But, ooh, I don't feel good. Danny and the father got kind of, did this kind of setup for when the True Knot was gonna come. And they did this huge setup, and everybody came. They killed a lot of them with guns and crap. And then Abra was supposed to be at a friend's, but she left because, you know, she doesn't listen. And she went back to her house, and they were in the car with the older guy. And the Crow got a hold of him, the male leader of the True Knot, and she ended up killing the Crow. I'm like, how? Well, it was weird how this worked because Danny could go into Rose's body, and it was weird. I was like, what? But Danny could go into Rose's body, mind, whatever, and he could come like kill the Crow in her body. I was like, hold up. Like, what is that? What? But since they're kind of joined in a way, they're related, they both have the shine. Well, they both have the shine. Danny's not as strong as it used to be, but he still has it. And they end up defeating the Crow kind of together. And then all that's left is Rose. So they go through this huge thing with the Rose. And this kind of confused me because they were on top of this building, and like Abra somehow uses her powers to like push her off the building. Or was it Dan and Abra? Danny, who was in Abra, who pushed Rose off the building. One or the other. But she ended up falling off the building. And I was like, is she really dead? Like, I couldn't believe that just because she fell off this building, she was dead. What? How is she dead? Like, if this girl's so powerful, how is she dead? I couldn't believe that at first. And then when it ended, oh, by the way, yeah, one of the pages, it's like, in any case, the True Knot isn't interested in ordinary children, only those who have the shining. Children like Abra, Lucy said. Yes, they torture them before killing them to purify the steam, Abra says. I keep motioning moonshiners, making white lightning. They want to inhale her because she has the shining. Not just the shining, but a great shining. I'm a flashlight, she's a lighthouse, and she knows about them. She knows what they are. That's when they told Lucy all about her. And we end this off with like, Abra being like, and it's over. It's really over. And then Dan's like, uh-huh. And this is like a crazy ride. Like, I know I made it sound so simple because I didn't go into every detail because an hour-long review, you know, but my GOODREADS review I spent so much time on. So if the facts aren't 100% accurate, 1, I'm dizzy. 2, I'm sick. 3, I wrote all of it in my review yesterday. So keep that in mind. I'm so sorry if this wasn't that great, but I did want to film it for you guys and for myself to look back on. And yeah, but at the end we celebrate Dan having 15 years sober, and I was so proud of him, but at the same time I was like, how, like, I felt like the ending was so perfect, and Abra was turning 15, and I thought this ending was so perfect. And then at the end, Dan helps another client fell asleep. It's like, no, Dan said, I'm here, I'll stay here until you sleep. Now he clasped Carling's hand in both of his and smiled. Until you sleep, he said. May 1st, 2011 to July 17th, 2012. So that's what the whole time frame of the book was. I did enjoy it. I did have, like I said, a couple issues with the ending and how it wrapped up, but the story, the first half was so weird. Like, please, it does seem really kind of boring, the first half, and I'm not a person to say like a book is boring, because it's not, but the first half was definitely slower and less interesting than the second half gets, but the first half is so important because all of those things are foreshadowing the ending, and all of those things are really important for the story, and they get to know the characters, so just remember that. And the second half is amazing. The second half made up for most of the book for me. I've been trying to read this for a really long time and I never got through it. I finally got through it. I ticked off some things throughout it as well. I finally got through it. It took me a week to read. I ended up giving around 3.75 because I really liked Abra's character, and Dan and the father all working together was amazing. I loved how they worked together so well. And the whole concept of the True Knot and all the people involved were so interesting to read about, like Rose and Andy and the Crow, and all these people were so cool. And Abra was so awesome, and so was Danny. It was so nice seeing Danny grow up. And maybe I'm a little bit generous for me personally with that 3.75. Maybe it's more of a 3.5, but for now that's what I'm giving it, and I did enjoy it. I'm happy I picked it up. I think it was worth the read, and that ending was worth the whole, like, was worth a lot of it. I know I sounded really unenthusiastic talking about this book, but it's just because I'm sick, you know. But bye.